Ayo, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Ace. This is Fantasized Football. We are back once again, bringing y'all some more fantasy football content for the 2021 fantasy football season. And I'm here today to bring you guys some of my trade targets for week one. Well, technically week two of the 2021 fantasy football season. But before we get into the specifics, as always, I wanted to give a quick shout out, a quick thank you to all of you that come by and show support on a weekly basis. Honest to God, it means the absolute world to me. You guys will never ever understand how much it means to me, and I will never ever stop telling you. And if you are new to the channel, thank you for coming by, giving me a little bit of your time. I do hope you enjoyed today's video. If so, make sure to drop a comment, leave a like, and subscribe to the channel. We're getting very, very close, dangerously close to our goal of 300 subscribers on YouTube by the end of the fantasy football season. So help me to get there. Also, in the comment section of this video, drop me some of your start-sit questions, some guys that you would like to hear me talk about in Saturday's video. I really appreciate that. It would help me out very much. I'm going to do some of my own anyways, but I would love to answer you guys' start-sit questions as well in that video. But yes, what we're going to be doing today is looking at kind of some of my trade targets, my buy lows, and then I have one sell high of the week for you guys. So make sure you stay tuned until the end of the video so that you can hear who my sell high of the week is. I have two running backs, two wide receivers, one quarterback, and one tight end in terms of the buy low trade target candidates for us this week. So without further ado, let's kick it off. First off, with Ezekiel Elliott of the Dallas Cowboys. He had 11 carries for 33 yards, and he also had 2 targets, 2 catches, and 6 yards receiving. Now, the Cowboys played the Buccaneers, and they played this game correctly. They threw the shit out of the ball because the Buccaneers have one of the best run defenses in football. So I kind of already knew, I kind of expected that Zeke wouldn't be super involved in terms of the rush game. The one concerning thing here is that Tony Pollard did get a lot of targets, but I think that in the coming weeks, Zeke will be in a position where he's a lot closer to 20 opportunities than he is to the 13 opportunities that he had last week. I don't think that the Cowboys are going to be throwing the ball 50 plus times week in and week out. Dak would be setting records all over the place in 17 games this season if that were the case. And for the next few weeks, Zeke does have some relatively good matchups. They play the Chargers this coming week, week 2, who just let up over 100 total yards to Antonio Gibson. After that, he gets Philly, Carolina, and he gets the Giants after that. So I would be looking to get my hands on Zeke now, if at any point. Obviously, he had a disappointing week 1, and then on top of that, there was a lot of skepticism with Zeke from the fantasy community as a whole coming into the year. So after a very disappointing kind of busty week 1 from Zeke, I think now is the time to go out and try to trade for him. So he is my first buy low candidate for us here today. Now, on to the second running back that we have to talk about here. It is Najee Harris of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had 16 carries for 45 yards and 3 targets, 1 catch for 4 yards. And just like Zeke, he did have a tough matchup against Buffalo's run defense. But what we really love to see here is the opportunities, is the volume for Najee Harris. He got 19 opportunities here in week 1, and that's what we love to see. Obviously, it was a low-scoring game. It wasn't the most entertaining game whatsoever. But I expect moving forward, there will be more scoring opportunities, and hopefully Najee can build on his efficiency. This was his first NFL game, his first NFL regular season game. So I don't know how many people are really going to be looking to sell on Najee after week 1, but if you do have a manager in your league that is a little skeptical on Najee Harris, now would be the time to go out and try to grab him, because I think moving forward, he will improve. This team will be in more scoring opportunities. The touchdowns will be They will be there. There will just be more scoring opportunities, the Steelers as a whole. And like I had mentioned, that volume that we saw, the 19 opportunities, is what we want to see. We're always chasing the volume. And coming up, he has Las Vegas, Cincinnati, and Green Bay for his next 3 games. All good matchups for Mr. Najee Harris. So I would be looking to target both Zeke and Najee Harris if you're looking to make a trade at the running back position this week. Now, moving on from running backs, we're going to go over to wide receiver. And the first guy I got to talk about is none other than my boy, Allen Robinson, right? Now, Allen Robinson had 11 targets for 6 catches and 35 yards. It hurts. It hurt. It hurt to see. But what we love is that the volume was there. The 11 targets were there for Allen Robinson. And he was in a tough matchup against the Rams, having to go up against Jalen Ramsey a lot of the game as well. It was Andy Dalton's first game as the starter for the Bears, getting adjusted to this new system. He played pretty poorly. The route tree was pretty ugly for Allen Robinson, the way they kind of played it. But I think now is the time to go out and get your hands on Allen Robinson. One, because Dalton should improve. If not, then Justin Fields is going to come on at some point. And on top of that, he does have a few good matchups. He has Cincinnati in week 2, which is great to see. Hopefully he can kind of turn things around, pick it up from there. If the volume's there, hopefully they're giving him some more favorable routes as well this week. Dalton can kind of improve on what he did last week, and we can see Allen Robinson be the guy that we want him to be, the top 15 wide receiver that he is. If anything, maybe even a top 10 receiver in the NFL. And getting this kind of volume, he should be very valuable for fantasy football. So that's why I would be targeting Allen Robinson in trades if you're needy at wide receiver. Moving on from Allen Robinson, we're going to go on to Julio Jones of the Tennessee Titans, who had 6 targets, 3 catches for 29 yards, right? In week 1, I felt like I had to put a Titan on here, right? I'm not completely sold on this Arizona defense, but I think it was more that the Titans as a whole just weren't with it this week. For whatever reason, it was kind of a fluky game where they just did not perform. And we're going to talk about this again with another player and another team in a little bit. But with Julio Jones here, he did only get 6 targets, converted 3 of those into 29 yards. I expect him and the Titans as a whole to bounce back. They're playing Seattle next week, which should be a shootout. We saw what Russ did last week. Should be a high-scoring game. Big opportunity for Julio Jones, Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry to all bounce back. Obviously, Derrick Henry wasn't very effective on the ground last week either. So when Derrick Henry gets it going, that's going to be good for the play-action game for Julio Jones, for A.J. Brown, and for the rest of the pass catchers on the Tennessee Titans. So Allen Robinson, Julio Jones, those are going to be my 2 favorite wide receiver trade targets for this week. Moving on now to the quarterback position. This one was pretty easy for me. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers. Again, just like I mentioned with the Titans, I think this game was kind of a fluky one for the Packers as a whole, and especially Aaron Rodgers. He went 15 for 28. He had 133 yards and 2 picks, no touchdowns. Now, like I just mentioned, I think this was a fluky game, and I think that Aaron Rodgers is pissed, and he's going to come out with a vengeance, with a chip on his shoulder, and absolutely smash this Detroit defense in week 2. So this is a good time to get your hands on Aaron Rodgers. People talking shit, they're saying, listen, I thought the last dance was the season, not just week 1. So Aaron Rodgers is going to come out. We've seen what he can be, obviously, throughout his career. And this week, I think that not only himself, but Aaron Jones as well will be bouncing back. That's another guy that you could be looking at to try to target in trades after a week 1, a very disappointing week 1 from the Packers as a whole, only putting up 3 points. But this week against Detroit, obviously a very porous defense that Aaron Rodgers and the rest of the Packers should be able to take advantage of. So if you're looking for a quarterback and you have a manager in your league that is concerned about Aaron Rodgers, go out now and get him before it is too late. So moving on from Rodgers, we're going to wrap up my trade targets portion, the buy low portion, with a tight end, and that is going to be Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. Now, Mark Andrews had 5 targets, 3 catches for 20 yards in a high-scoring game, did not score a touchdown, wasn't super involved in terms of his target share, but I expect that to change moving forward. Sammy Watkins got a lot of targets last week. Marquise Brown had 6 or so. I expect that Mark Andrews connection will grow, and they will look to get him more involved this week. They are playing the Kansas City Chiefs, which I expect to be a high-scoring game. Mahomes, Lamar Jackson going head-to-head, battling it out. I expect this to be a very fun game to watch, and Mark Andrews to get more involved, be more involved in this game plan, because obviously he is a big part of this offense. They are a run-first team, but Mark Andrews should be the top receiving option for Lamar Jackson. So I think that it's a good time to go out and buy on him. I also think he's just kind of the best option at tight end to try to trade for right now because he is one of the better tight ends in the league and for fantasy football. And when you look around, there isn't too many of the bigger name tight ends that kind of busted this week. Kelsey had a huge game. Darren Waller had a big game. George Kittle wasn't great, but he wasn't horrible either. So I think that Mark Andrews is a good guy to go out and try to trade for if you are needy at the tight end position. So that is the trade targets. Let's quickly recap that. We have Ezekiel Elliott, Najee Harris, Allen Robinson, Julio Jones, Aaron Rodgers, and Mark Andrews. Those are going to be my favorite trade targets for this week. And now we made it to the promised land. Let's go to my sell high of the week. And this, just like I said with Aaron Rodgers, was very, very fucking easy for me. I am picking Deebo Samuel of the San Francisco 49ers. Holy smokes. Deebo went off. I am not a Deebo guy. I didn't talk much about Deebo in the offseason either. Not much about either San Francisco wide receivers. I made it kind of clear early on when I first started the channel. I wasn't a huge fan of Ayuk, but Deebo was just kind of like, he can't stay healthy. He's had a lot of injury issues. Just kind of the way they use him scared me. I expected Ayuk and Kittle to be ahead of him in terms of the pecking order. But this week, he was the guy. He had 12 targets, 9 catches, 189 yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. He had a huge, long touchdown that he took to the house. Obviously, that's great. We didn't see much of him in the run game, but the big takeaway here is that Brandon Ayuk was banged up this game and didn't see any targets, and George Kittle only had 5 targets. And more often than not, I do not expect that to be the case. We can't predict what the 49ers are going to do anyways, ever. In the run game, in the pass game, Shanahan's a very smart mind, and it's a little scary for fantasy, but all these 49ers players are generally very valuable for fantasy football. But I think that as Ayuk gets more healthy, George Kittle will obviously be more involved, Ayuk will get more involved, and then Deebo Samuel may end up being the odd man out, where he got 12 targets last week. I would expect most weeks he'll be somewhere in that like 5 to 7 target range, maybe 4 to 6 targets, and get a couple of end arounds, whatever, a couple of rush attempts. And if that's the case, then now is the time, if any, to try to get off of Deebo Samuel after his huge, huge week 1. So I would be trying to move on from Deebo Samuel. Get what you can for him if you're needy at running back, tight end, quarterback. See what you can get. Maybe you got to package him up with another player, whatever it is, to get yourself a nice piece to fill in where you are weak on your fantasy roster. So that is it. That is all. That is all there is. I am done with this here trade video. We will be back on Saturday to bring you guys the start sit video. So make sure that you drop down in the comments your start sit questions, anything else you want to hear in that video, because I might do a couple other things in that video as well, depending on what I get from feedback from you guys. But as of right now, it's kind of just going to be a start sit video. I'll do kind of some of my own start sit questions, whatever I get from you guys, all of that good stuff. But if you did enjoy this video, make sure that you leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Help me reach my goal of 300 subscribers on YouTube by the end of the fantasy football season. The links to my socials will be down in the description, so make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter. You're also more than welcome to drop your start sit questions either in my DMs on Instagram or tweet them straight at me. I would love that. That would be a blast. But yes, me, my boy, we are done for today. We will catch y'all next time. And as always, thank you, love you, peace.